Oh, there it goes.
Oh, so very wide. Let us build a bridge of music, let us cross with a song. Let us span another canyon, let us right another wrong. Oh, and if someone should ask us where we're off and bound today, we will tell them building bridges and be off and on our way. Oh, and if someone should ask us where we're off and bound today, we will tell them building bridges and be off and on our way. We will tell them building bridges and be off and on.
We will tell them building bridges and be off and on our way. Thank you, Bill Staines, for allowing us to play this music on our show. I'm going to see, it's hard to do everything at once, but we're doing the best we can. We're with you here. That's next to me is Brian Alexander. Susan Coleman will be up in a minute. We are now live. This is a 1-hour program today, and it's called World Call-In. And basically, we're talking about the Earth is flat. Dennis Carius is with us on the phone line. Hello, Dennis.
He's calling in from around the world.
He's calling in from about 25, 30 miles away. And we do this program. We did the last program Sunday on the front stoop on the water last week, and it worked out reasonably well. We have some more bugs to get out of the system, but on a scale of 1 to 10, being 0, and 0 was just figured out about 500 or 600 AD, by the way. There was no one knew what 0 was, until after that. I mean, not 1,500 years ago. No one knew what 0 was, so you couldn't get an accurate measurement. I didn't know that until I listened to Bucky, and then I checked it. But Bucky said, Bucky Fuller. And so anyway, so we are on a scale from 1 to 10. How our programming is going is we don't have perfection, but we do have excellent. But we're going from 0 to excellent, 0 being not good at all, and excellent being very good. We are on about a 6. So that's the story. But next we're going to try to do it from the actual front stoop at the marina, and if that works, then we are going to. That'll be good. So we'll be able to get people who are walking around on Sunday morning from 10 to 11 on the front stoop. But today we're going to be looking at, we call this one World Call-In, because anybody around the world can call in. And we're going to be talking about flat Earth economics. And we always thought up to about 600 years ago the world was flat. But now we know that the world really is not flat, it's round. And when it's round, just like everything in this planet, if you can sit right over here, you may be much better off because you can look at the camera. That's good. That's much better. And that way you can see the.
Yes.
Okay, and then and that's Brian. He is I would consider Brian a liberal intellectual, in case you're interested. And we always have conservative intellectuals coming up now. Well, she's not really a conservative. She's a humanitarian.
What?
So anyway.
Are you talking about me?
We are. We're talking
I'm not a
about
conservative.
the flat Earth economics. And the only one who's talked about the Earth is flat now is someone named Friedman.
Oh, I think he's backing off from that a long time ago.
But he wrote a
Probably
book,
embarrassed by that.
and he's a Pulitzer Prize winner, so that makes him super smart, I guess. I don't know if that makes him. What do you think?
No. Which Friedman we're talking about?
Thomas Friedman.
Welcome
Thomas Friedman.
to joining us.
He's smart.
Okay, so now we have here.
Do you want me to read the summary? So
Yes, would you read the summary?
Orient your
please?
minds.
I'm
You
just
didn't put your hair up.
I just washed my hair. I can't do a thing with it. So that's what happened. I'll move it back because
Yeah,
I don't look so scary. How's that?
Right, and here, put your,
I lost my
Earbud back in.
Okay. Okay, Dennis, are you there still?
Dennis, I want to introduce something, that I woke up in the middle of the night thinking about. It was stimulated by what we read from Buckminster Fuller the other day about how, if you remember, when we were on the boat and we were broadcasting from the boat for the first time with solar and the satellite only. Very exciting.
Solar energy ran our program.
Right, and from the boat. And but anyway, we were reading some more of Buckminster Fuller's thoughts in his book Critical Path, and he made the point that when people understood, in general, finally, that our Earth was round and not flat, and not flat and infinitely going in all the directions. Nobody knew, when you could drop off, so to speak. No, it wasn't that anymore. People understood that, most people understood that we were living on a spherical planet. And I don't know, I guess you could guess what point in history that occurred. I'm sure you can look it up. But it was a general consensus finally after, a lot of resistance from various power structures.
A lot of the church, but
well, yes, and also governments, right? But and if you think about it, you can figure out why. And Buckminster Fuller gives a really interesting account of that, in his usual way of saying things. And he says that that it was a very, very profound time in history when it was generally realized that we lived on a spherical planet, but people were still kept in a lot of ways from the knowledge of that and from the profound implications of that by the way that economics continue to be practiced, like we have a flat Earth, like we have no end to the directions it can go. And well, let me read my summary and where I tried to bring this into one short paragraph, this idea. But I woke up in the middle of the night thinking about that and the implications of going from understanding one thing that was wrong, that we live on a flat surface that goes infinitely in all directions, and there's a heaven and a hell and underneath us and the whole routine, to living on what we understand to be a spherical planet, which we're very aware of. We've gone into space, we've seen it from space. Yes, indeed, it is round, it is a sphere, it keeps going around the sun, and we've got that down now. So what is flat Earth economics? It is economics that operates under the assumption of infinite resources, no beginning, no end, kind of like the kingdom of God, and images and imagines. We can hear you. Okay, I'll start this over. What is flat Earth economics? It is economics that operates under the assumption of infinite resources, no beginning, no end, kind of like the kingdom of God, and imagines that the Fed, Wall Street, and the consumer index have moods, and that there is such a thing as fiat currency. Flat Earth economics ignores the reality of our spherical, finite Earth and its finite resources, whose economics and natural cycles insist on real calculation based on real inventory and real needs. That makes sense.
Real time, yes.
And real time, should I put that into?
What you just said was we have to base everything not on fiat currency.
Which is imaginary.
Imaginary.
And then we imagined
And-
too,
well,
when the earth was flat,
and
and
we
there
are-
were sea serpents in the ocean.
Right.
They were gonna come out and
And-
grab you.
But what I'm finding very interesting is 2,000-3,000 years ago, people believed in this, and then science came about and started to say, well, there really aren't very many sea serpents or any at all, and that the earth is not flat, and we've learned a lot in science. And now, because of the way for some reason or other, we believe in the fiction, and we believe in
Well, we operate in an economics that is still back in the
Like-
time when the earth was believed to be flat.
like we have boundaries that man put on the planet. We have like the United States, and we have Mexico and Canada, and we have all these man-made boundaries, but they're not real. They're put on by our own thinking process. There's no such thing as a boundary between the different countries, except what we put on by rule of law. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay, Dennis. But now supposing I say I'm going to pollute the world. I'm going to pollute I want to run pollution in my backyard, and I'm going to pour oil all over my backyard, but it can't go beyond my boundaries. Could that possibly happen?
No, I think it would go beyond your boundaries, Jeff.
Now,
So isn't that a type of imagination, imagining your way out of what the real situation is? And we're being, our corporations that operate with huge budgets and making masses of money, I'm thinking about the fossil fuel corporations right now, and also some of the agricultural and pharmaceutical groups that make, the most magnificent obscene profits of our modern time. I'm thinking about that when we're saying, are they living in a real world, or are they still on the flat earth,
They're
thinking
still-
that there's infinite resources?
And they can pollute
as much as they want.
Yeah.
There's no end
Now,
to what they can do for the profit that
let
they're
me
making.
bring it. I want to.
May I make one more point?
Yeah, I want to comment on what you were saying
Yeah,
earlier.
right. But what we've got right now is not survival of the fittest, which I'm not really that excited about that term and that interpretation of all of Darwin's thoughts. But that's one of the premises that our economics operates on. But it isn't survival of the fittest anymore. It's survival of the most profitable. In other words, what can you make, whatever it is that companies feel they can make the most money off of, is what they're cultivating or surrounding and using up. If that makes sense.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I want to do it. They're saying, well, we have to go within the confines of rule of law, but the rule of law is not nature's law. It's the law man made up to benefit the economic system. Now, that's a very, very big problem, because the rule of law is a lot different than the natural law. Now, for instance, I'm in my car, and I like my classical or my rock and roll, and I'm within my boundaries of my car. So I turn my music way up, and I'm assuming that it's not going to bother anybody else. Well, how many people have been in their car and they feel like they're being drummed out by someone's woofer or loudspeakers?
What, at a stoplight or
At
a
a
stop
stoplight,
sign?
or they're driving by the road or something, and they've got their music loud. Well, that's pollution. That's obtrusive. Why would you want to pollute the air with noise for no reason? Because you like something and it's benefiting your likes. You may be scaring the animal away that I was watching, enjoying the bird watching, or maybe I just wanted peace and quiet. I didn't want you booming with your machine. Well, that's exactly what fracking is doing. And rule of law allows people to do that. They allow them to make a lot of noise, or they allow them to pollute the air and the water and the ground. And it hurts everyone. Well, we can do it within our own boundaries. Well, There is no boundaries within nature. Nature's boundaries is the entire planet Earth, or the entire spaceship Earth, as Bucky calls them. So does that make sense to you, Dennis?
Oh, yes, Jeff. It makes a lot of sense. It's sort of like being told that there's something like climate change or global warming, and then having ExxonMobil say there's no such thing as that. Well, then wasn't it true that then they said, oh, we can't say that it's not happening? All these experts are saying the oceans are rising from all the ice and snow melting. So,
well, forget about the experts. You don't have to be an expert to realize that all of a sudden your front stoop has got water on it somewhere in the world because it's doing that, right?
so that's what I'm saying.
You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be an RPI graduate for that. You know it.
Right.
And that means that ExxonMobil is infringing, and big corporations are infringing upon the rest of the world to make money. And then you are all of a sudden, because they're doing something that's not made, that they're lying about within the rule of law, not man's law, but man's law rather. It's not nature's law, natural law. That all of a sudden people are being displaced. I'll give you a good example that happened right in this country. I forgot the name, but there was I think it was like Levittown or something like that, Long Island, where they put in a lot of pollution, and they built this entire town. Do you remember that? They built this entire town on it, and all of a sudden the town started blowing up. There were little explosions all over the place, and they had to move the whole town out because of the pollution under the ground.
I don't know, wasn't it Love Canal?
Love Canal, right?
Yeah.
Love Canal. I forget.
Levittown was one of the first kind of manufactured.
Yeah, but it was.
No, I think it was Love Canal you're thinking.
But that was exactly.
There have been
the
other
problem.
ones too.
You know, but this happens all over because people are trying to make a profit. I looked at, there was a movie on last night that I was trying to fall asleep to, and it was talking about in a schoolyard.
Yeah.
They put toxic waste underground.
Well, that's because they had removed it from some waste product they had,
yeah.
and they wanted to use the bulk of that waste material, but they had to remove what was toxic. And then they didn't know what to do with the toxic stuff, so they buried it under the new construction.
Right.
Of course, this is a story, but certainly something
It
that's
happens like that
possible
all the time.
too.
You
Something
know,
that was today, a couple of days ago in Colorado, a mine, a former mine, which had millions, literally, of gallons of polluted water, either broke or inadvertently released by the Department of Energy. And they've admitted responsibility. But it's, can you imagine 2 or 3, 4 million gallons of tainted water? And now it looks like a river of dirty mustard for miles.
but
And it's as we
Right.
speak, they're working on that.
but what was
Yeah.
the reason for doing that? How did we get? There are certain things in this world. If you don't know about something, that's different. We're learning as a species that if we go ahead and cut all the trees out, and then all of a sudden it rains, we have mud washing out. If there's a natural fire, let's say, I think that happened in California, maybe I had some recently I saw there was a washout.
These kind of events are happening all over.
Yeah, but that's
California's a big case.
But that's where they have a fire. That's natural. That's natural problem. Then they have the rains and it washes mud down. That's natural. But if you intentionally damage something and you've known about it, that you poison the water by fracking, or you continue to pollute the atmosphere so you lose your ozone layer. These are things we now, as a species, we know about, and we don't really want that to continue on, but we have to stop it. And the reason why we're not stopping is because the economic system is driving us. I want to just do a little bit of house cleaning here. This program is brought to you by the Human Renewable Energy Measure, and it's not to make money on. It's just to say that all humanity has value, no matter what. And I love people who tell me that.
You mean every person?
Every person,
When you use the word humanity, sometimes
all
people blank out
human being
sounds homogenous.
has value. And
Every individual.
Right, and then I have people who tell me, well, those people, they don't want to do anything. Well, I'm sorry, every human being has value. I don't care who those people are, or where those people are, or where they come from, or what color they are, or
what you mean by
nation is.
Right.
Now, you got to ask yourself a question. Does a tree have value, and does it do anything? Bucky says that. A tree doesn't do anything, but it has great value as far as help. When we know that it helps the air, it helps hold erosion down, it gives shade, it gives life to other creatures, which in turn gives life. It's a cyclical thing, and that's when we come back to the world is not flat. It's cyclical. Everything comes around. We have a lifespan. That's about 80 years of age. We all use a certain amount of energy for food and shelter. And we all have to have knowledge to know what we're doing. And I think we are a very stupid species, but we have the potential to learn. And I think we need to evolve to where we have to put a measurement in the language that says all humanity has to have every individual has to have their basic needs met.
Before the economics kicks in with the marketplace and all that.
Not marketplace. And I love people who say, how are we going to pay for this? How does all human beings have their basic needs met? Well, the reality is if you had to have a war tomorrow, we would figure out some way to get the natural resources to fight that war. But we are at war. We're at war with our own selves. We have this mixed emotion. We have this cognitive dissonance, as Marco calls it, Paul Marco, one of our other shows. We have mixed emotions. We all know we're doing something wrong with the system, but we are killing people every day because we have to make money. So there's something really wrong. We all know that.
The economics demands that you make money for no purpose, to no purpose.
For no reason other than the sake of making money.
Creative or life-enhancing purpose.
So
a lot of wasted energy there, a lot of wasted lives and
life. And so this is so I want to tell you that it's brought to you by the Human Renewable Energy Measure, THEHIREM.org. Human Renewable Energy Measure. Please look that up. And all we ask for you, we don't want you to put money in or give us your email or anything like that. Just if you understand how important this is, just use your social media to get that message out. That's all we want you to do. Just for the benefit of anyone who's, I'm going to be gone in a few years. I'll be dead. I'll hit my 80 years and I'll be gone if I'm lucky. But most other people who are listening to this are younger. And you need to make sure we change the way we do our economic system. You still should have your subjective value, but your basic value, your objective value is education, food, and shelter for about an hour of work around the world. And there's no reason in this world. And
we're also, this would bring full employment.
Well,
because everybody's going to have something.
And you can work as much or as little as you want. You can make as much as you want. But no human being should ever have to starve or beg for shelter or beg for food and have to pay for education. And they should do that within 1 hour of their life's work. That is the point of this programming, and we spend a lot of time, lifetime, doing it. Renew the Earth is another nonprofit group that we run that talks about renewable energy. Again, renewtheearth.org, and that's been going on for probably about 25, 30 years. So that's been around for a long time, and it talks about renewable energy and the benefits around the world for renewable energy and good things happening. So that's the thing, and you're listening to Bridges program, which is a for-profit humanitarian radio station. Of course, it doesn't make any money because there's no money in humanitarian issues. So that's where we are now. Anyway, I just wanted to clear that up. So please look at that. Bridget, and you can go on to Hangouts on air, and you can see our programming, on all of our programming. And we're still in the process of trying to move this forward. We need more programmers, and we need people to talk about what their ideas are on their own way and how we can help humanity. Unfortunately, the people think it's going to be a top-down thing from great leaders, and I honestly don't think we have anyone on the horizon who's a great leader, number one, and number two, most of the leaders I know are just very wealthy, spoiled brats. So I'm sorry to tell you that the big guys who are running for office now, or women as well, I don't think there's anybody out there who I would consider a leader today. And none of them, well, I take that back. I look at Bernie Sanders, and he's the one who's actually saying something that has some value. But again, no one is talking about a measurement. The Pope, by the way, and we're doing a lot of work with the Pope's group and for the Pope's encyclical, great work. And of course, we're going to try to resurrect Buckminster Fuller, which they call Bucky. So Susan is looking at some information now on that.
Well, I could read something about his concept about, he puts in perspective that we are on a spaceship. I could read that.
Yeah, but let's clarify what Bucky's saying. Susan's reading from a book that Buckminster Fuller wrote called Operating Manual for Spaceship Earth. And I'm going to try to, and on that operating manual for Spaceship Earth, and Dennis should love this, Bucky says that because we our measurement as far as our time goes is we always say the sun comes up and goes down and sets, and we agree upon that. The whole world agrees upon that measure, but the reality is the sun doesn't come up and set. We go around the sun and we circle, and the moon holds our gravitational pull. And Bucky says, so we are in fact on a spaceship, and it's called Spaceship Earth. And
it has limited resources.
And it has limited resources. But
and you have to keep all the systems going.
And the sun is our supplier. The sun is our supplier. And the moon is our energy supplier. And it gives us our food and our water and our heat. And the moon is our actual stabilizer to give us our gravitational pull. And if we destroy our spaceship by destroying our life support systems, which
well, like not getting sufficient food because we're destroying the lands.
The land mass and the water.
Exactly.
As Brian mentioned earlier, there's the Department of Energy, our illustrious government, really helped us out by, and at least they took the rap for it, that they allowed something to come about that was.
Well, I think that was inadvertent, and they're very.
It wasn't important, but it was
inadvertent.
It was inadvertent, and it was
on purpose at all.
But it was probably done. It was probably done because some kind of money had to change hands somewhere, and I bet you it's directly related to economics. I don't know the facts on that, but most of the things, when you look into them carefully, is directly related to money, economics. So anyway, that's what Susan's reading from. It's from Bucky Fuller, or Bucky, he calls it.
This is another book, not the Critical Path that we keep referring to, but this is Operating Manual for Spaceship Earth. And there is a PDF online
if you want to see
can
that,
easily bring up and read it.
It's only 61 pages, people. Try to educate
60,
yourself.
Right,
60 pages.
60, right.
61 pages. And,
yeah, 61.
And then you may want to as well look at some other stuff we suggest you look at, which is Money as Debt, which is a 48-minute video, which is great to fun to look at. And there's a long one that I really like, but it's a long thing to watch, and you got to see it more than once. And that's called Zeitgeist Moving Forward, where it highlights many, many different concepts. And one of them, which I enjoy a lot, is called The Venus Project, which is also with Jacques Frisco, who's probably not going to be with us much longer. He's 99 years old. He still gives talks. And his partner, Roxanne Meadows, she'll be around a little bit, and they talk about the resource-based economy. But that's highlighted on Zeitgeist Moving Forward. And as soon as Dennis gets a chance, he'll probably look at that once he gets his computer up and running again.
Yes, so, congratulations on looking to get your computer up and running.
He's got the part ordered. You got the part ordered, yes?
Well, good, we're making progress.
Oh, excellent, Dennis.
And we'll get you set up. By the way, our tech person, Levi, is getting married next month, and he's really busy with.
He's very preoccupied with all the things that occur before you get married.
And I'm sure by the middle of next month, we'll have some of these things.
Poor guy.
Straightened out that we need to get done. But right now, I have no one else I can count on to lean on. So.
Meanwhile, our email has been hacked. That's okay. We don't need to read our
emails. If you get any emails from us, don't answer. Don't answer our emails. We've been hacked. So again, this great technology works fine when
it works.
Yeah, but people are trying to make a living, so they're always trying to hack you and screw you up. But that's the problem.
I don't know why they bothered, but that's okay.
But anyway, but they're trying to get your personal information. So just try.
But we're giving out all our personal information.
You got it all, yeah, guys. You're looking at it.
This is it. There's nothing else.
So let's get back to Spaceship Earth.
Okay. And pipe in anytime you want, Brian.
A couple footnotes.
Yeah.
Actually, there were some Greeks that knew the Earth was round. Way back several hundred BC, they calculated.
Well, yes, but that didn't.
Well, and also the Phoenicians. From what we got some historical, and that would refer to the Greeks. They already circumnavigated before Columbus and the Vikings.
You're entirely right. You can go back and find everybody in this world right now knows there's something wrong with our economic system. This is nothing a new thing.
Oh, not at all.
So I'm saying, but until
the world was round, Jeff. That's what we were just talking about.
A lot of people thought that back then. The reality was that mainstream thinking process didn't allow it to come into effect.
And that was very easy to do then.
No, I wasn't undermining your point at all.
No, I know you weren't, but that's very interesting. Yeah. And that's a good point, because here's the reason. We have something different now. We have a much more efficient and more comprehensive communication system, so we can get information to everyone on the planet, but then it was very, very hard for people to communicate with each other. You know, somebody in Greece may have known the Earth was a sphere, but how did they get that information to someone in Great Britain? Or, it was not dispersed widely. It was very, very easy to suppress that kind of information. So if, of course, their intelligence has been consistent throughout time. People were just as intelligent then as they are now. They could see the potential of repressing that kind of information that would give them more power if they understood it, but they don't want everyone else to understand it, just like they didn't really want everyone to understand the concept of zero. That was another very, very important concept to have a starting point.
Matter of fact, I just learned this from Bucky Fuller, and I verified it because I was.
But now it's very hard to suppress really, important information, but you can make people not understand it or the implications of it. With propaganda, you can still convince people that something is not worthwhile, or don't worry about this because we've got that taken care of, just trust us. There's all kinds of ways to obscure, because communication is so much better. It's gotten really good at obscuring information and trying to make people go off in cul-de-sacs, as you call it, and get lost in ideas that are not going to bring us, everyone and all of life on this planet, to a better and better place, so that we don't have wars. There are certain symptoms we want to get rid of: wars, poverty, displacement of populations, torture. You can, poisoning our oceans, overfishing, poisoning our lands, poisoning our atmosphere. There are certain symptoms we definitely want to get rid of. And these are symptoms of our economics as we practice it today.
By the way, I want to get to that point of zero. The Bible was written, 2,000, 3,000 years ago. The Yiddish Bible, the Jewish Bible, was written about 5,000 years ago. And in the Bible, they talk about people being very old, and they talk about how many children they had and how many kids they begat, and so on and so forth. But the reality is that the concept of zero or nothingness, zero, the start point for measuring, didn't happen till about 1,500 years ago. And it was brought up by the Arab nations, or somebody from Arabia. Arabia. And that was, so all the measurements prior to 500 AD had no base,
No
zero,
starting point.
had no starting point. So the measurements weren't accurate.
They had nothing to compare them to.
Right, there was no
But once you
zero.
could make that intercomparison, then everything started to make sense.
Right, and that
in math and also in real life, because you could
was
say,
the point of
I
start.
got that wonderful incense, and it was this many miles away, and my ship had to travel for this many days, and blah blah blah. So people could get an idea of how far they had to go, how far it would be to get back, and when they got to get people to be at the dock to unload the ship, and then disperse the goods. And of course, these kinds of concepts were very, very important, and they developed because of trade. And we were talking about on last week's program how oftentimes these incredibly useful things like the zero, like the lever, like the wheel, like the, you can think of all
The
these.
plow.
Yeah, these were, the plow, I wouldn't include that because that was a good idea to plow the ground. But the lever was probably invented so that pharaohs could build their pyramids and take their stuff to the next world. It's like this, and trade to make money, and it became useful to invent the zero. It's interesting that it can.
Well, actually, the opposite.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Because they could use subjective values if they didn't have a zero. They could say we get.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah,
we don't know. You will never know where I went to go get this
and
stuff.
I'll tell
So
you,
I'm the only one who can go there and get it.
I'll tell you what's happening today. We're still using objective value to figure out what fiat. Subjective value.
Right, that's what the flat earth economics is. We have decided that our economics has decided there is no zero. That's why we can have fiat currency.
Right.
There is no end to the natural resources. We're not going to tell you where we're going to get them from. Although, ExxonMobil is so sure of itself, it sends out a monthly or bi-monthly communique that tells you what they're going to do next, and where they're going to drill, and where they're putting all their money. I mean, they just so much. I mean, it's amazing to see. Actually, they're being a little cagier now. They're not putting as much of that in. So I guess people have been.
But that's the whole point.
Without
knowing where you are, you can't get there from here, and you can't really explain it. Well, the fiat currency, or how much is a dollar worth, you can't answer that because you don't have a start point.
And that's what
the renewable energy measure is.
Do you want to continue to operate under flat earth economics? That is the decision.
We need to get
Or do you want to empower every individual
that has value?
You want to empower them because they have a right to life.
You don't need a gun to empower them. All you need is a word.
They have a right to life and to the basic needs that every
human renewable energy measure, the hrem.org.
And this is actually less expensive. If you want to talk about how much does it cost, it's less expensive than what the way that we're operating our economics now. If you, go ahead.
Well, Bucky, this is interesting. Did you read that? Yeah.
I did.
Okay, well, Bucky says it's simple, that if you calculate all the people having to go to work for jobs they can't stand, and they're not accomplishing anything to help humanity. They're sitting in a light.
Draining resources.
They're draining natural resources. So you get all these people at a stoplight, right?
Going to work.
And the stoplight stops, and you get all this energy. The car, if you can visualize 100 horsepower in a car, let's say 50 horses. Let's not even go 100. 50 horses sitting in a stoplight, and they're all bucking because they want to go forward, and they're wasting all this enormous amount of energy. And then once you get to your office, all you're doing is shuffling papers, which do nothing to help humanity. So look at the energy resource you wasted. And if it would be cheaper in energy resources to let people stay at home and make sure they have their basic needs met than it would be to have
and allow the creativity that is innate in every human to surface it, and
Right.
and to be focused on things, not building pyramids so that the pharaoh can take his riches to the next world, not making more money for ExxonMobil or the pharmaceuticals or for Monsanto, not figuring out more ways to sidestep, the preservation of life on this planet with laws. I'm not. This is not.
This is not off the graduate.
No, this is not.
This is obvious. This is obvious things. Just like it was obvious maybe 20,000 years ago that some guy woke up and said, "Why is around? Look at the shape of the earth." But he couldn't. But they didn't have the. They didn't evolve into the next thing. There were people. All humanity can think of these things. We know it's. But if you can imagine, let's say, imagine a serpent. Or you can, if you saw a big fish in the ocean, or a whale, maybe you think it's a serpent or an octopus. I mean, this would be without knowledge, without human, as we have to evolve.
And real experience of something. You have the possibility of fearing it, just like you would fear possibly another person who speaks a different language. But it's interesting. That this happens, very, very early. My granddaughter and I would walk in the woods, and we've done that ever since she was little. And I've noticed the change in how she reacts when we go in the woods from when she was very little and didn't have a lot of input about how she should feel about forests and things like that. Like, she hadn't been to a lot of movies. She hadn't watched a few TV series or cartoons where creatures come out of nowhere in the woods or whatever. And so these little things hadn't started to work on her and change what she felt was possible when she goes for a walk in the woods, So now when she's about 9 years old, this time when we went walking, I could tell she was getting uncomfortable as we got further from the house. And then I realized when I spoke with her about it, she said, well, there are things in the woods that could hurt me, or come out of nowhere. And I said, Lyria, you've got to concentrate on what is actually happening to you when you walk in the woods and what you really see, and learn about, the more you learn about what is really in the woods and the plants and how they and the trees and where the wild creatures live and how they behave, the less fearful you're going to be, because you understand the reality of what is going on in the forest. And these things are just stories that people make up, and they try to entertain you with these stories or scare you with these stories.
They lie to you. They want you fearful.
But
people in our society,
it's very, very easy to make people fearful, and it starts when they're children.
You gotta watch out for those ISIS people. You gotta watch out that you don't have enough insurance. You gotta watch out that you're not gonna starve. This is all fear, and it's amazing how our societies works puts everybody on fear, and they divide the different religions up. And then they divide the specific religions, and they divide them even more.
Right.
And then they divide the communities up, and then divide the races up. It goes on and on how we should be
This happens throughout our lives. Yeah.
It's just amazing.
And that is the other edge of the sword of communication. It's a double-edged thing. It's great because we can get information everywhere. But mixed in with that is a lot of propaganda and disinformation.
Dennis, what are you afraid of? I'm curious.
Dennis.
Dennis, what are you afraid of?
Well, Dennis is afraid that he's going to say something and Jeff is going to shout, "You're wrong."
Are we afraid of giving out our social security number because someone may steal our money? Or we're afraid to put out our credit card number because someone will steal our money? Or are we afraid that we may not get our degree because it's costing us so much money to get educated? Aren't these things that are fearful for no reason? They have no basis.
Create anxiety, right?
Is there any problem with that? Or we fear something may break on our car because it'll cost us so much money to repair it, or our house may need a new roof, or the electric bill may go up higher.
So we
Don't you
can't
see the fear? And then they that's one set of fears, and then the other set of fear is, wow, we gotta watch
supernatural stuff,
the natural stuff.
supernatural
Yeah,
stuff.
and then
And the natural
or
stuff.
the beast. I have a lot of people on do programming with us, and one of them says, the beast is coming. Well, you've heard about the beast coming. By September, there's going to be a major crash in the market, and everything's going to collapse. Well, how many times?
And there's always a new deadline. We get past that deadline, so then there's another one and another one.
I mean, how many fears do we
Waiting
have?
for you.
And we're all affected by these fears, though, Dennis. I think we're all affected by these fears. But the reality is, we have to be able to see where the reality lies. The basic thing is, first of all, man's law is a good thing to have as a guideline, but it never should supersede nature's law. And nature's law is saying all humanity has to have their basic needs met.
And that the world is round.
And the world is round.
The planet we're on is a sphere.
Round. It's not flat.
It's not a flat circle.
And the resources are finite.
And the resources are finite.
Well, they're actually,
very
I want to clarify that. The resources are finite to a degree. If there are certain, the sun restores the
That's
resources.
true, but it's restoring the already existing finite resources that we
renewable
have.
energy is based on a certain timeline. Like if you're using renewable energy, the definition for that is agreed upon by science is a 7-year recycle thing. But if I'm looking at humanity as an energy source, our span is about 70 to 80 years. That's human beings are renewable energy, and we have a 70-year span. But if you look at finite resources like, let's say, copper, even though that can be recycled, and uranium and coal and stuff like that, they are finite, and they're also polluting portions.
Oh, yeah.
So we were hurting the other portions by taking out certain things out of the ground.
You're talking about how all these chemicals can react in different ways and create different things,
right.
But we're not talking about any new things being created on this planet that weren't here to begin with.
Right.
They may interact and change. In fact, there's a wonderful passage in a Sand Creek Almanac by Aldo Leopold, where he talks about the Odyssey of the cell. And if you want to read it, it's page 104. It's too long for me to read right now. But on another program, I could read it. But I'll just give people a heads up about it. And he talks about how the body of an Indian who died, and he talks about how the cells start to be reintegrated into everything that's around them. Something goes into some go into the soil and are, and devoured by the worms. Of course, that's the obvious thing. But then there are all kinds of other, eventually, a cell can end up in, a plant and then into a buffalo, and then the buffalo, the cell keeps traveling.
Keeps on moving.
Right, and finally goes back to the sea. And he's very eloquent about it, and it's fun.
And we really can't stop. By the way, human beings, I believe that we may become extinct in this world, but the reality is that this spaceship or this planet will still be here, and it'll recycle into something else. And unfortunately, our species may be gone.
Well, let me bring us back to Buckminster
yeah.
Fuller, because we only have about 10 more minutes, and then you two can comment on his thought here. He says here in the operating manual for Spaceship Earth, I've often heard people say, I wonder what it would be like to be on board a spaceship. And the answer is very simple. What does it feel like? That's all we have ever experienced. We are all astronauts. Our little spaceship Earth is only 8,000 miles in diameter. which is almost a negligible dimension in the great vastness of space. Our nearest star, our energy-supplying mothership, the Sun, is 92 million miles away, and the nearest star is 100,000 times further away. It takes approximately 4 1/3 years for light to get to us from the next nearest energy supply ship star. That's the kind of space distance pattern we are flying in. Our little spaceship Earth is right now traveling at 60,000 miles an hour around and around the Sun, and is also spinning axially, which at the latitude of Washington, D.C. adds approximately 1,000 miles per hour to our motion. Each minute, we spin at 100 miles and zip in orbit at 1,000 miles. That is a whole lot of spin and zip. When we launch our rocketed space capsules at 15,000 miles an hour, that additional acceleration speed we give the rocket to attain its own orbit around our speeding spaceship is only 1/4 greater than the speed of our big planetary spaceship. Spaceship Earth was so extraordinarily well invented and designed that to our knowledge, humans have been on board it for 2 million years, not even knowing that they were on board a ship. And our spaceship is so superbly designed as to be able to keep life regenerating on board, despite the phenomenon entropy, by which all local physical systems lose energy. So we have obtained our biological life regenerating energy from another spaceship, the Sun. Our Sun is flying in company with us within the vast reaches of the galactic system at just the right distance to give us enough radiation to keep us alive, yet not close enough to burn us up. And the whole scheme of Spaceship Earth and its live passengers is so superbly designed that the Van Allen belts, which we didn't even know we had until yesterday, filter the Sun and other star radiation, which, as it impinges upon our spherical ramparts, is so concentrated that if we went nakedly outside the Van Allen belts, it would kill us. Our Spaceship Earth's designed infusion of that radiant energy of the stars is processed in such a way that you and I can carry on safely. You and I can go out and take a sunbath, but are unable to take in enough energy through our skins to keep alive. So part of the invention of the Spaceship Earth is biological life sustaining. Biological life sustaining is that the vegetation on the land and the algae in the sea, employing photosynthesis, are designed to impound the life regenerating energy for us to adequate amount. But we can't eat all the vegetation. As a matter of fact, we can eat very little of it. We can't eat the bark, nor wood of the trees, nor the grasses, but insects can eat these, and there are many other animals and creatures that can. We get the energy relayed to us by taking milk and meat from the animals. The animals can eat the vegetation, and there are a few fruits and tender vegetation and seeds that we can eat. We have learned to cultivate more of these botanical edibles by genetic inbreeding. Okay, then he goes on to talk about our intellectual and intuitive capabilities and, how we amplify the various things that sustain life on this planet. But those things have also amplified things that don't sustain life on this planet.
Right, by
so
the way,
we have to be careful about that balance.
If you listen to Bucky talk, and then you listen to the encyclical, they are so similar. And the encyclical, he throws in God a lot because he is, of course, the Pope. But the reality is he's got this huge, he talks about how the inadequacies is happening because of the economic system and how we're killing people. And Bucky is giving us the technical information on what's going on. And now we can sort of come together and resurrect Buckminster Fuller or Bucky and get the Pope in there and get mainstream media to start talking about it. And get this measurement in that the human renewable energy measure must be into the vocabulary. We don't need to take a gun up or kill people or overthrow the elites or whatever. You just need to get this simple measurement in place. Once the measurement's in place, we can all see it. And we can all agree on that. We all know there's something wrong with our system, but we need to have a start point to fix it. We're running out of time. We have about 4 minutes left to our program. And I know Brian's been sitting here very patiently, and Dennis has been very quiet, so you guys can finish up the last few minutes. Go ahead, Dennis. Do you guys have anything you want to?
Can Dennis add something quick?
Of course.
Dennis can do
Brian can add to this, because Brian and I have talked about this many times. We're just right now talking about our planet, the Earth. I love this planet. It goes around the sun, right? We were told for years there's 9 planets going around the sun, and then they said no, there's 8 planets, because if they count Pluto, which we've all agreed for years, you can count Pluto, but then they said no, if you count Pluto, you've got to add all those others out there, so we'll just say there's 8 planets. But let me just tell the truth, because this is interesting.
Whose truth do you want to tell?
Oh, don't interrupt.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, Dennis.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for not yelling at me. Okay.
Dennis, go ahead.
Just in our galaxy, all right, just in the Milky Way galaxy, just like our star, the sun, there are 400 billion, not million, 400 billion stars just in our galaxy. And out there's 100 billion galaxies, not million, 100 billion galaxies. And now NASA is detecting that there are planets, just like the Earth. There's planets going around those other stars up there. So, and I talked to Brian about this before. I just want to ask Brian, is it possible that there might be life beyond Earth in our universe? Thanks.
Well, by definition, possible, of course. The word is probable, and but indeed it is probable. They're finding planets around many, not just a few stars, but many of them. As a matter of fact, most stars are thought to have planets, which is a mind-blowing.
But see, the question I have is, okay, so you both may be right or wrong. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is, how do we fix the problem we're here right now? Because we're going off into a never land. So we take our eye off the ball. If I asked you to play ping pong or tennis or golf or any sport, and the first thing in sports, keep your eye on the ball. Mm-hmm. Well, when you start talking about, is there life on another planet? Well, the
ball goes right past you.
It's a nice intellectual thinking process, but you took the eye off the ball. How do we fix the problem now where we're killing people all over the world? We are dropping drones on people. We're electing people into office who have no regard for us. We have a dysfunctional economic system.
We have a flat Earth.
We have a flat system that doesn't help us do anything to help the system.
Flat Earth.
So I mean, we're right, but when Bucky is trying to relate our planet to being a spaceship, and we must maintain our planet. Otherwise, if we don't, we will perish as a species. That's my point.
And all those other planets and all those other beings and those other galaxies don't care what happens to us.
I want to thank you all for listening.
They're talking to us.
Thank you, Dennis, for being with us.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you all for listening. And this is The Energy Song by Alien Folklife, written for us specifically. Thank you all for listening.
Energy, it all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone? Well, here's some fuel for thought. It all comes down to energy. Fossil fuel affects our lives like ripples on a lake. Cars and farms and factories and trucks. Supplies go down and prices soar, our futures are at stake. And when it's gone, it won't come back, and we'll be out of luck. Oh, energy, energy, it all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone? Well, here's some fuel for thought. It all comes down to energy. We can get our energy from corn and grass and trees. Even trash converts to biofuels. Break loose from the stranglehold of oil companies. Renewables can fuel the world. We're here to spread the news. Oh, energy, energy. It all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone? Well, here's some fuel for thought. It all comes down to energy.